Hello and welcome to the first of two videos I hope to do today on Cracking the Cryptic. As promised and canvassed yesterday, I'm going to try and up the production on the channel just during this odd period that we find ourselves in at the moment, where we're being self-isolated and we need things to do and keep our minds active. So I know that this community, we all love puzzles, and I'm solving a lot of puzzles just generally, as you can imagine. So hopefully I'll be able to throw an extra video or two or three up each week, and that will give us all something to look at and talk about. So on screen we've got a puzzle that's been sent in by Chris, one of our patrons on Patreon. So thanks obviously Chris, A, for doing that, and B, for sending us in this puzzle. He found it while he was travelling, and he said that it's quite difficult. It involves, I think he said, an advanced technique, but the advanced technique is totally spottable by a human being, he says. Now, I think that means he classes me as a human being, so hopefully I'll be able to spot the trick, and we'll have a look at this puzzle in a moment. The other video I'm going to do today, though, probably will be on a Filomeno puzzle, which is a lovely Japanese pencil puzzle, very similar in terms of look to Sudoku, in the sense that you end up populating a grid with numbers. It has very simple rules, can result in some beautiful logic, and the reason I wanted to do it today is that I've got some footage of some of the world's best solvers solving the puzzle. So we're going to be able to try a puzzle and then watch probably Kota Morinishi solve that same puzzle, and we can all be humbled by that. But anyway, let's do this classic Sudoku first. If you want to have a go, and I certainly recommend it, just click on the link under the video, and that will take you to this page where you can play along on whichever device takes your fancy. So with that, let's go. Now we've got some sixes. Let's put 6 in there. 6 in the middle because of these sixes. 6 here because of these sixes. We've done all the sixes in the grid now, so we're off to a good start. 2s now, we can place a 2 here. This 1 allows us to lock a 1 into one of 2 positions in the middle box, so we should pencil mark 1s in the corner of squares to show that that's the case. 5s must be in one of those 2 positions at the top because of these 5s. 7s on this side. I'm quite conscious when I do this that I don't go in order. I know a lot of people like to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm sort of jumping around all over the place. It's just how I've always solved the puzzle. So there's a 3 here because of these 3s. That gives us a 3 there, look. These 3 3s interacting force this to be a 3. That forces that to be a 3. And that forces that to be a 3, and that to be a 3. So we've done 6s and we've done 3s now. 7 in the centre can only go in one of 2 positions. 4s interact, look, on this top left-hand box. They force a 4 into that cell. 1 now can't go here, so must go in one of those 2 squares, and this is one of the advantages of our pencil marking. Now these 1s point at this 1, so the moment I know that this is not the 1, this must be the 1, because I was pencil marking where a 1 could go in 2 positions in the box. So if one of those positions is not valid anymore, the other must be true. 5 is locked out of those 3 cells in this box. Therefore the 5 must be in one of these 2 positions. That forces that to be a 5. Okay. 6, 9. This 5 here has a similar effect, but sort of reversed on this box. It locks the 5 into one of those 2 cells. That locks a 5 into one of those 2 cells because of this 5 and these 5s interacting. Locks a 5 into one of those two squares. 4s, look, in the bottom, must be in one of those two positions. So, okay, I'm starting to slow down on pencil marks. So what I'm now going to look at is rows and columns that contain lots of digits. So where we have clustered rows like this one, where we have 6 digits, we should see what we can see. Actually, that gives me pencil marks here. You can see this square can only be a 5 or an 8. So I will pencil mark that in the center, because that's the center. Or central notation is looking at the cell itself. The corner notation is looking at the box and saying a number can only go in 2 positions in the box. This must be a 1 or an 8. Let's have a look at column 2. We've got 5 digits there. Look, so 2, 5, 8 and 9. No, other than noting that 5 is locked into one of 2 positions, I can't see anything better than that. And when we can lock a digit into 2 positions in a row or column, that is worth just studying for a moment. Now, I can't see anything doing with these 5s here, but the sort of benchmark of some of the advanced techniques, the thing that underpins them so often is where a number is locked into 2 positions in a row or column. Let's have a look at this column. 1, 4, 7 and 8. So this square can only be a 1 or an 8. That square can only be a 4 or a 7. That square can only be a 4 or an 8. This square can be anything. Let's check column 5 as well. So 1, 2, 4 and 8. This square can only be 2 or 4. Fives, look, I should have spotted that earlier. I could have done that. That gives me a 5 here. So let's have a look at this row now. We need 2, 4, 8 and 9. Oh, there's a 2, 4 there. So this square can only be 8 or 9. So one thing we can note about this row, look, is that the 2 can only go in one of 2 positions. Now that is interesting. That is interesting. Right, okay, so now I'm going to tell you that we can eliminate 2 from this square here. Let's highlight that square. This is the square that we can focus on. Now, I'm not actually sure this is going to be of any use at all, but it is an advanced technique, so we should talk about it. And it derives from the fact that we've locked the 2's into 2 positions in row 9. Now, this time, the way we need to think about this is in the context of box 5. Because this little square here can't be a 2. So the 2 has an interesting property in this box. We can say with certainty it's either in column 5 or it's in row 4 or both in this position. If it was in this position, it would be in both column 5 and row 4. But the fundamental point that we need to keep in mind is that it's either in this column or this row. Now, why does that matter? Well, because that's sort of a binary state of existence, let's imagine the 2 was in one of the yellow squares, so it was in row 4. Could this blue square over here be a 2? Well, obviously not. But the only other state of existence, when we look at the finished solution to this puzzle, that could persist is if the 2 is in column 5. But if it's in column 5, because the 2 can only go in 2 positions in row 9, it can't be here anymore, so it's forced to be in this square, where again, it that would eliminate a 2 from the blue square here. So whichever way, wherever the 2's sit in this box, however they are arranged, there is never a 2 in this square. And perhaps the best way to convince yourself that that's the case is that if we try and put a 2 in that square, let's see what happens. You can see no longer could we have a 2 in either of those squares. Look at row 9. Where would the 2 go? Well, it can't go here, so it must go here. And now where are you going to put a 2 in this box? There are no valid squares. So this square is not 2. Now, does that matter? You can see this square can't be 1, 2, or 3. Could be 4. No, it can't be 4. It can't be 4 because, look, these 4s. Now, why can't it be 4? Well, this is a classic pattern that we come across a lot, which is that if we look at boxes 4 and boxes 5 and ask where the 4s go, they are locked into row 4 and row 6. Therefore, in this box over here, we know we need to put the 4 in row 5 because we've not got a 4 in row 5 yet, and it can't be in those squares, can't be in these squares, so it must be in one of those squares. In fact, it must be in one of those 2 positions. So this square here, it can't be 1, it can't be 2, it can't be 3, it can't be 4, it can't be 5, it can't be 6. It can be 7. And it can be 8. Bother. Can't be 9. But now we can look at column 9 and this 2, 4. And we're going to be able to get some nice logic now. Where do the 2 and the 4 go in column 9? They can't go in these 3 squares. This is a sort of New York Times hard Sudoku trick that comes up all the time. The 2 and the 4 can't go in these 3 squares. So where are we going to put them? We've just proved this square is a 7 or an 8. So there's only 2 squares left in column 9 that could be 2 and 4. It's these 2. So we find a 2, 4 pair. Now, what can we do, if anything, with that? What we can do is ask where a 9 can go. This 9 here means we could pencil mark 9s there. Now where are we going to put 9 in this box? Only in this square. Now, if we hadn't got this, this is nice, this is important. If we hadn't have locked this square down to being a 2 or a 4, this square could have been, could certainly have been a 9. And then even if we got these pencil marks, we'd have pencil marked 9s into those 2 squares. Like that. But now this cannot possibly be a 9 because it must be a 2 or a 4, so the 9 is forced over. Now is that, yes, this is going to be useful. Now this 9 and this 9 interact and they're going to give us a 9 here. And the moment we place that 9, we also get the 4 because of the pencil marking. That rebounds down there and gives us a 2. Now the 2 must be in one of those squares, look. These 2 squares have got to be 4 and 8 to complete the row. Oops, 4, 8. Must be a 9 in one of those squares now. Now, does this 4 do anything for us? Yeah, that gives us a 4 here. These 2 squares have got to be 1 and 8 now. There's a 1 there, so that's a 1 and that's an 8. That locks an 8 into one of those 2 squares. Let's have a look at, well, we can look at, there's all sorts of things going on now, I think. 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. So this square here can only be a 5 or a 7. Let's have a look at this. We need 2 and, what's that, 2 and 5 to complete this. Oh, there's a 2 here and a 2 here. So in fact the 2 can go there. That's a 5, that's an 8, that's a 7. This 2 then forces that to be a 2. That forces the 2 here. Yeah, we're on the right track now. This is going very nicely. Whew, that was not easy, and that I suspect is not. I suspect there was something a lot easier than that to get through this puzzle. But it was an advanced technique, so it was definitely worth covering. Now let's carry on, see if we can get the rest of this sorted out. We need 7 and 9 into those 2 squares, look. 8, 1, 7. Well, we can fill in, let's have a look at this box at the top. We need 5, 7, 8 and 9. So these 2 squares, well, the 8's got to be here. You can see the moment we place this 8, we get the 5, 7 and the 9. That means that one's a 1. This square's got to be a 9. These 2 squares here have got to be 4 and 8, which we can now resolve. There must be a 4 in one of these 2 squares. 4, 7. This 8 sees the 8, 4 at the bottom. That fixes that. That forces that to be a 4, that to be a 7, and that to be a 1. 7 is locked into one of those squares now. This square here, what's that going to be? A 4? I think it's a 4. These are 7, 8 and 9. So the 9 must be in one of those 2 positions. Down here we still need 2 and 7. We can see the 7 up here, that gives us the 7 there. That's going to fix the 7, the 9 and the 8. This square here has got to be a 2. We need 1 and 7 into those squares. That's all doable. That forces that to be a 9. And hopefully with a 2 and an 8 we're going to finish the puzzle. Oops. Let's check. Yay, we did it. So thanks for watching. As I say, let me know in the comments what you thought of the puzzle. Thanks Chris for sending it in. Definitely interesting. You can tell me as well what was the technique I was meant to spot. And yeah, as I say, hopefully I'll be back later on with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.